Hello, everyone. What? Houston, we have a problem. This moon launch is not quite going as planned, a minor technical problem. I'm being told that we have now achieved launch and that I am now live. I hope that's actually the case. So I don't know what I'm going to talk about today. What really is there left to talk about? All-time high price. Wall Street is putting hundreds of millions of dollars into Bitcoin. Big companies are building things on Ethereum. We've got dApps and labs. Lightning Network is coming along nicely. I think we're done, right? We're done. We've won. There's no point in even discussing any of these things because we won, right? Yeah, because we were doing this to get Wall Street to like us. I'm pretty sure that was the reason. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that once we get the approval of the bankers and once the giant corporations start using this technology, that means we win, right? Or was there another reason we were doing this? Is it possible that we shouldn't be celebrating and we should try to remember why exactly we were doing this? Why blockchains? Why decentralization? Why open systems? Why open networks? Who is this for? Why have we been building this technology? Why are we excited about this technology? Was it to get to the moon? Or was it because getting to the moon involved building a rocket? And it's really more about the rocket, not about the destination. Because if we're smart about this, we're not going to the moon. Maybe we're going to Mars. Maybe we're going to the stars. Who knows? But really, this was all about rocket engineering. And why? Because we care about achieving certain goals. Decentralization isn't the goal. Blockchain isn't the goal. Getting Wall Street's approval isn't the goal, or at least not my goal. So what is the goal? And I've been thinking about this a lot lately and trying to see how to explain what is still important about this space and what we're trying to achieve and what the goal is. And ultimately, to me, the goal is fairness. So how do you achieve fairness? And it's not about the outcome. It's not about getting to a fair society. It's about how we get to a fair society. Because there are a few societies where fairness happens more often than not. What do those societies have? What is the magic ingredient? And how can you get that fairness on a global level? So to me, this is about fairness. And decentralization, blockchains, consensus algorithms, all of those are mechanisms to achieve fairness in a new way. So in order to really understand what we're trying to do here, I bring back a story from my childhood, a story about fairness and what the best method for achieving fairness is. When I was young, when I was 10 years old, I had two older cousins, 11 and 12 years old, both boys. And at the time, all they would eat, day in, day out, is French fries, or chips, as they're called in England, or papas fritas, as you call them in Spanish-speaking countries. That's all they would eat. So every day, there was a battle, because my poor aunt would make a bowl of papas fritas, but the problem was that my cousins had an enormous appetite. And so every day, they would fight over this bowl, over who would get more chips than the other, about the unfairness of the portions. And every day, my cousins would try to cheat each other, and inevitably, it would end in violence. You see, the thing about fairness is that if you don't have a nonviolent mechanism for achieving justice, violence is the outcome. With a 12-year-old, that violence was almost, but fortunately not lethal. But it certainly involved a lot of screaming, and my poor aunt always simply offered to make more chips. Now, I'm not going to go into the inflationary characteristics of simply providing more chips stimulus every time there is a dispute over the fair allocation of chips or the political system that should be used to allocate those chips. There are several ways to achieve fairness in this scenario, and my poor aunt tried all of them. She tried the role of dictator. My aunt makes the chips, therefore my aunt decides who has the chips and how many chips they have. And of course, that almost caused a revolution. And my older cousin, who was quite big and intimidating, wanted to overthrow the dictatorship of my aunt and more fairly allocate the chips. In all of these scenarios, who makes the decision, how justice is enforced, what that enforcement looks like, how the political decisions in the allocation of chips are made, mirror society as a whole. And in that whole conversation, someone suggested a more simple solution. And that simple solution is called split and choose. And it's a game. The game works like this. My two cousins play a role. One of them is a splitter, the other one is a chooser. One of them gets to split the bowl of chips into two portions, and the other one gets to choose which portion they will eat. Now, you've probably played this game as a kid. You've probably heard of this mechanism of resolving disputes. And what this mechanism of resolving disputes does is it makes sure that no one can cheat. And the reason no one can cheat is because it creates a system of incentives and disincentives for fair behavior. It only takes one or two rounds of this game for the two cousins to quickly realize that the splitter has no option but to behave fairly. If they make the portions uneven, they lose. If they make the portions even, both win, and there is no scenario where both lose. All you have to do to achieve fairness is ensure that neither of the two cousins can depart from the agreement. Now, that agreement, that series of steps that creates an outcome of fairness, arranged through incentives and disincentives, reward and punishment, in computer science we would call a protocol. And a protocol is simply a series of agreed upon steps, usually for communication, but in some cases for arranging an outcome. And in this model comes a unique new way of achieving fairness. Here, fairness is not guaranteed by a third party. My aunt does not need to intervene. If the protocol holds, fairness is the natural outcome. And it's the natural outcome in almost 100% of cases, as long as you can keep both parties committed to the fairness protocol. This amazing mechanism removes the need of intermediaries. It ensures that my aunt cannot be corrupted, coerced, intimidated into giving more chips to one of her sons over the other. My aunt can't play favorites and always favor the hungrier looking cousin. Instead, the system is resolved simply through incentives. Now, this is genius. Can we do it on a bigger scale? We've gone from systems where there is a dictator to systems where you have institutions for enforcing the fair outcomes to systems that are self-enforcing, where fair outcomes are the result of the system of incentives and disincentives that are enforced through a protocol, this fairness protocol. And at the end of the day, this is what we're doing. We're doing it in a more fancy way. We're using cryptographic protocols. We're using special security primitives like encryption, decryption, digital signatures, cryptographic hashes, zero-knowledge proofs. And we're using all of these tools to build games. And in these games, if we create a series of steps and conditions where the participants quickly realize that the only way to win is for everyone to win, and any attempt to cheat results in the cheater losing, you no longer need to enforce fairness. All you need to enforce is that the protocol is actually followed. And this is a very, very simple and effective mechanism of justice. It's a market-based, rules-based system of justice. It's a system of rules without rulers. And that's what we're doing. At the end of the day, it's not about the monetary policy of 21 million coins or smart contract execution in an environment of dApps, composability of dApps, cross-blockchain improvements. It's not about any of that. All of these things are just simple, different games that we play in order to create fairness protocols. The monetary policy itself doesn't work unless you have a fairness protocol. What is the fairness protocol? It's the proof of work algorithm inside Bitcoin that says that miners must commit proof of work, and if they try to cheat, they lose money. No one needs to enforce that. No one needs to go to the miner and take away their money. The protocol enforces that as long as they stay within the protocol. So all you need to do is make sure that the participants stay within the rules, and the rules ensure fairness. Fairness is no longer the thing you're enforcing. Fairness is the natural outcome of the protocol, and all you need to enforce is the protocol itself. And of course, many people will tell you that some protocols are better than other protocols, that this protocol is the only way you can do it, that this goal of fairness is the only goal worth pursuing, monetary policy, dApps, whatever that may be, but let's not lose sight of the picture. What we have here is a pattern. What we have here is a system that allows us to achieve fair outcomes by participants that do not trust each other, without resorting to violence, and without requiring an intermediary to enforce things. All of the other things come out of this pattern. All of the other benefits are secondary effects of this fundamental understanding that a system of incentives within a rigid protocol of rules achieves the results we want without intervention, without enforcement, without third parties having to come in. We've removed the ant. We've removed the need for a dictator, a parent, a judge. And in doing so, we've removed all of the problems that arise from these systems that have centralization. Centralization in the form of authoritarian centralization, or even centralization in the form of institutions that are fallible and easily corrupted. And we succeed in creating these incredible fairness protocols and even creating an environment in which people are inventing new fairness protocols to do new things every day. Split and choose for chips was just the first step. And now we do this with proof of work for the monetary policy. We do it for payment channels in the Lightning Network where two parties can collaborate without each having any opportunity to steal from the other. We do it with atomic swaps that ensure that two people can exchange currencies across two blockchains without either party being able to cheat. We do it with staking algorithms and proof of stake protocols. We do it in smart contract execution and DAOs. We do it in all of these different forms, but at the base, it is still the same basic idea. A fairness protocol, a simple game of incentives and disincentives that does not require enforcement. And in doing so, by removing the role of the benevolent parent, we achieve fairness more effectively. We achieve fairness more directly. We achieve fairness on a greater scale with less possibility of corruption and cheating. And as we have succeeded in this, the problem is that many people see the effects of the success and miss the pattern. They don't see the fairness protocol. What they see is the market capitalization. And what they're excited about is that somehow these idiots on the internet have figured out a way to make money. And we want some of that. And so here they come. The Wall Street billionaires, who now suddenly believe that this is something worthwhile. But they don't believe because they see the fairness protocol. They maybe believe because they see the monetary policy that that creates, but they don't understand how that monetary policy is created and secured. They like the result, they don't understand the recipe. And what do we do in return? Do we question the principles? Do we reinforce the teachings? Do we try to understand the fairness protocol and expand its use to more systems? Unfortunately not. What we see many people do is applaud. Applaud the billionaires for finally figuring out what we've all known so far. Welcome them and listen to every word they say as if they're wise because they finally recognize the value of this system. Make no mistake, they have no idea what the value of this system is. They don't understand the fairness protocol behind it. All they understand is that somehow we've managed to make money and they want some of that. And here's the problem. They will abandon the principles of the fairness protocol they don't understand in order to achieve their real goal, which is simply piling on more money. So when you think that we have won by getting the approval of the bankers, of the large corporations, by getting PayPal to like us, you're missing a very, very important point. These same organizations that currently approve of the system as it exists today and don't understand the fairness protocol behind it will attempt to discard the fairness protocol. They will go back to the mechanisms they know and understand. They see a plate of chips being produced and fairly distributed by two cousins, and they say, that's amazing what you've achieved there. Now, I have an idea of how we can take this to the next level. really scale it, really make this possible for the mainstream to use. I know how we can put this on NASDAQ so that investors all around the world can access this incredible invention. I know how we can make it. Listen to this idea. How about we let the ant split the bowl? Yeah? Right? You get it? No, so the ant can split the bowl. That way, we don't have to deal with the complexity of splitters and choosers and incentives and rewards and punishments. I didn't really understand this fairness protocol. It seems rather complicated. Now, where I come from, the way we do this is we have the ant split the bowl. You can't really explain the fairness protocol or object to this description. And in the experience of those who have been eating chips very effectively without much competition, who already have a plate full of chips, who have not been robbed by their cousin and then beaten up on top of that. This seems very logical. After all, what problem are we really solving? This is about the efficient production and distribution of chips, and we can do that much better if we invite the ant back into the picture. Here's the thing an Argentinian understands, and a Greek like me understands. The problem is that in this scenario, the ant is our government. And every time we've trusted our government to split the bowl of chips, we realize that actually they're drunk. And so what they do is they eat all the chips and then they beat up both of the children. And they've been doing that every day. And the children are starving, and the parent is drunk, belligerent, and full of chips. And if you try to explain this to people who have never had this problem, they see no reason for the fairness protocol. They see no reason for removing the intermediary because the intermediary has always worked for them. The very same billionaires and giant companies that you are currently applauding because they finally figured out that Bitcoin is here to stay, that cryptocurrencies and dApps and DAOs and blockchains are here to stay, and that they're producing innovation and value across the entire globe. They look at these things and they say, that is fantastic. This monetary policy of 21 million coins is wonderful. But if we really want to get it on NASDAQ, what we need to do is give the miners a license. That way we can make sure that none of the miners are mining illegal transactions. We also need to give a license to node operators to make sure none of the node operators process any illegal transactions. So we can really make this system big as long as all of the miners, all of the nodes, and all of the participants are identified and licensed and they work by our own rules. All you really need is a parent to split the bowl of chips. Stop applauding. Start remembering why we're doing this. What is really, truly unique about these systems that we've built? It's not the chips. It's not this meal. It's a system for producing fair outcomes without intermediaries. And those same people you're applauding want to reintroduce themselves as intermediaries. We talk about rules without rulers, and everybody who hears us who has a traditional view of the system thinks if there are no rulers, that means I could be a ruler on this new system. And perhaps the best way to do that is to buy myself as many tickets as possible on this ride. And maybe that will make me the ruler. We haven't yet landed on the moon. We're still building the rocket. And maybe we need to remember why we built this system. The reason we built this system is because the previous systems for achieving fairness have failed billions of people around the world. It's because we need a fairness protocol that doesn't have intermediaries. That's why we're doing this. Thank you.
¿Se quedó mal? Bueno, thank you, Andreas. Thank you, Andreas.
Thank you very much.
Bueno, I hope you enjoyed Andreas' talk. This is my friend Diego Gutierrez Aldivar, co-founder of this project. Yes, we have a huge team of people working behind scenes. We have Diana Gomez right there, the whole organizer of the event. Thank you, Diana, and all the team that's working behind. Diego, people is asking us, yes, to do the landing. To do the landing. It's a special landing.
The landing is seen when we get to the moon.
Exactly.
We are starting that journey, no?
We're starting that journey.
At the end of the week,
On Saturday,
we'll
we are really all going to the moon.
to the moon.
Yeah?
Perfect.
But we need to do this.